Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. So in today's video we are going to revise the environment and ecology portion. Now this environment and ecology portion will be useful for you for the UPSC examination as well as the state PSC examination. It is also going to be very much useful. Now I am going to link this environment with the current affairs as well so as to help you to the largest extent. So let us start with the environment. What does this environment mean? It means the culmination of living and non-living things. Now, what does the ecology means then? It is the interaction between living organism between the biotic as well as the abiotic environment. Now, environment constitutes the living and non-living thing, whereas the ecology is interaction between the living organism with the biotic and abiotic factors. Now, there is a hierarchy which is there in the environment. Now, let us begin from the individual. What is an individual? Now, the individual is the ability to interact independently. It is constituted by a single thing. Okay, it means one. Now, at the next stage comes population. Population means it is the group of organism of same species occupying a defined area during a specific time. Now, the important thing here to know is the difference between population and community. Population on one hand refers to the group of organisms of same species, whereas on the other hand, if I talk about community, it constitutes the group of population of different species. Okay, population में single species and community में there are different species. Okay, now this is the major difference between the population and community. Okay, now community, it is population of different species living and interacting in a particular area or habitat. It constitutes different plants, animal, fungi, etc. Okay, now after the community comes the ecosystem. Now ecosystem is the structural and functional unit of the biosphere consisting of the community of living beings and the physical environment both interacting and exchanging. So ecosystem constitutes of community, it constitutes of the living being which means the environment. Okay, so the community living in an environment, this is known as the ecosystem. Now this word ecosystem was constituted by Tansley. It was termed by Tansley. So this is also being asked in the various examinations. So you need to remember this as well. So what is a biome? Now this biome has been a UPSC PYQ. So this biome is the largest geographical region characterized by the particular set of climatic conditions. मीनिंग क्या? मीनिंग ये कि ट्रॉपिकल एवरग्रीन फॉरेस्ट. ठीक है, वी नो अबाउट द ट्रॉपिकल एवरग्रीन फॉरेस्ट. So name some of the trees that are there in the tropical evergreen forest. It is teak, any, ebony, ठीक है, and mahogany. Now these are the foods. These are the fauna species that are there in tropical evergreen. Similarly, there is tropical deciduous. So the different set of climatic condition, it means constitutes the different biomes. Okay, so this tropical evergreen, tundra, tropical deciduous, all these are types of biome. I hope you have understood this effectively. Now what is the biosphere? Now it is the interacting zone between the air, water and land. It means the lithosphere, the atmosphere and the biosphere. Okay, sorry, hydrosphere. So biosphere is the, how can we constitute a Venn diagram for biosphere? So this portion, this common portion, this is termed as the biosphere. It constitutes of air, water and land. I hope the things are clear. Now what is an habitat? Habitat is a place where an organism or the community lives. ठीक है, now habitat constitutes the physical space in which an organism lives. Okay, it is the physical space, whereas niche is the unique role or position of a species in an ecosystem which includes physical and biological condition. ठीक है, Niche means the unique role that an organism or a species plays. Habitat is the physical space in which a species lives. Okay, I'm trying to just, this is just a revision class, so I'm trying to best explain you the difference, main difference, ताकि अगर इस तरह से कोई क्वेश्चन आपके एग्जाम में आए तो you would be able to just eliminate that. Now, what is the Gauss law then? Now, this Gauss law is related to the niche competition. It means that there are a set of organisms, there are different organisms which have competition. They compete among each other, so they develop a specific and they develop a distinctive feature, distinctive qualities which is related to that niche only. Okay. Now, what is the Gauss law? It is the competition of two species in the same niche which will lead to the exclusion of one niche. Okay. So, this Gauss law is related to the niche competition. Now, what is a ecotone then? Ecotone is the zone of junction between two or more diverse ecosystem. Okay, for example, we have seen there is a marshland, there is mangrove, and there is grassland. So ecotone is the area which is the junction of both. It is just like the biosphere. ठीक है, अगर Venn diagram if we want to draw, so this highlighted portion, this is the ecotone, and let us consider the three different areas as marshland. This one is mangrove, and this the third one is grassland. Okay, so this zone of trijunction or the zone of junction is known as the ecotone. Okay. Now, what is the characteristics of the ecotone? Now, edge effect is associated to that. Now, it is a zone of tension. It means, as I told you, ecotone is a zone of junction. So junction में क्या होता है? Let me for example explain you this with an example. Railway junction होता है. What does this junction means? Junction means कि more than one line, more than two lines from the different areas meet here. So generally we see that whichever junction in the railway station are there, there is very much crowd because different people come from different areas. Okay, junction is the point of meeting. So what will happen in the ecotone? Ecotone, I told you, it is the junction. So what happens in the junction is many species are there. Now these species fight among each other. So this is continuously a zone of tension. So edge effect is related to the ecotone. Now some of the characteristics, some of the examples of ecotone are corals, wetlands, mangrove, marshes, estuaries. Okay. Now, what are the ecotypes? So this ecotypes resides in ecotone, that is the zone of tension, and these are specialized species of ecotone. For example, there are tiger, Royal Bengal tiger. Okay. Now the tigers that are specifically found in the Delta, Sundarban Delta is in the border of West Bengal and Bangladesh. Okay. Now, the tiger, the Royal Bengal tiger that are there in Bengal lives in the area of marshland. Now, the marshland are very much saline. Okay, the water there is very much saline. So these Royal Bengal tiger, they adapt to these conditions. So this adaptation is known as ecotype. So a Royal Bengal tiger is the ecotype. Okay, because it can drink the salty water. Okay, it does not need to drink the fresh water. This tiger can also adapt with drinking the salt water. So this is known as the ecotype. I hope this is very much clear. Okay. Now ecotype, this is population of species that differ genetically from one another population of the same species. बताया मैंने अभी आपको the tigers of मध्य प्रदेश, as Madhya Pradesh constitute the largest number of tiger, the tiger of Madhya Pradesh are exclusively distinct from the tigers, the Royal Bengal tigers of the West Bengal, because these are adapted to the salty water or the marshland condition. Okay, I hope this point is very much clear. Now let us see the food chain. Now the food chain is A, say transfer हुआ B and B से C and then C say it goes to D. So there is a unidirectional flow of energy. Uni means one. One means that the flow of direction is in one direction. It means that A is the primary point, then the flow of direction will be towards B, and from B it will be towards the C, and from C it will towards the D. It cannot happen that A to B is unidirectional and then B to A is again in the reverse order. It will be considered as multidirectional. Okay, so food change, you need to know that the flow of energy is unidirectional or in one direction. Okay, I hope this one is clear. Now what is a food web? So food web is just, let me explain with explain me this with an example. So this is a food web. There is no one way in which the energy flows. So in a food web there is the multi-dimensional flow of energy. Okay, food chain में unidirectional flow of energy, food web में there is the multi-directional flow of energy. Now what is a pyramid of energy? Like this it is there, A, B and C. So this pyramid of energy is always upright. It means it is always in this direction. Okay, it is always in the north to south direction. It cannot be in the it is always in the south to north direction. It cannot be in the south to north direction. It means it is always upright. Okay, it is never inverted. Why it is so? Because the largest level of energy is at the base level. A point pe there is the largest level of energy. It is believed that only 10% of the energy is transferred to the higher level. So B, if we say that 100 energy is there at point A, then only 90 energy will be available at point B, and at point C only 81 will be available. So as we proceed in the upper cycles of food chain, the energy, the transfer of energy generally tends to decrease. That is why this pyramid of energy is always upright. ठीक है. Now pyramid of biomass. Biomass is the mass that is produced. So the transfer of energy is followed by that Gauss law, that is 10% of the energy is transferred to the each tropical level or each trophic level. But in the case of pyramid of biomass, it is not necessary. So this pyramid of biomass can be upright, it can be upright, and it can also be inverted. It means upright भी हो सकता है and it can also be inverted. I hope कि these points are exclusively clear now. Let us now proceed. Now then there is a point, detritivorous and decomposers. So you need to know the basic difference behind these. So these detritivorous are the organisms that excrete no chemicals. It means that they directly decompose the dead and the decayed matter. On the other hand, the decomposers are those which excretes a certain type of chemical. There is an insect which excretes juglone. Okay, it is a type of a chemical that helps to decompose. So the basic difference between detritivorous is they do not secrete any chemical for decomposition, and the example of detritivorous are worms, crabs, flies and millipedes. On the other hand, if I talk about the decomposers, bacteria, fungi, insects, these are a type of decomposers because they excrete chemicals for the decomposition. Next important concept in this is bioaccumulation and biomagnification. Bio means it is related to the plants, and accumulation means to get together. So when there is accumulation of substances such as pesticides or other chemicals at one place, it means that it is not transferred into the trophic level but at the individual level. Are you getting my point? Bioaccumulation, it means it gets collected at individual level. When there is accumulation of substances at the individual level, then it is known as bioaccumulation. On the other hand, if I talk about the transfer of chemical from one organism to another, then it is known as biomagnification. This is the basic difference. Okay, let us now see the difference. Bioaccumulation, it occurs at an individual level. It means the accumulation of substances such as pesticides or other chemicals at individual level. On the other hand, if I talk about biomagnification, this is transfer of chemical from one trophic level to other trophic level, that is the higher level. Now, for biomagnification, the chemical that is going to be transferred, it must be fat soluble, it must be long lived, it must be non biodegradable, and it must be mobile. Mobile matlab easily movable. फैट सोल्यूबल होगा तभी तो it would get absorbed in the individual's body, and when this individual is will get eaten by the secondary consumers, then this individual will transfer that chemical to the consumer. Again, this secondary level of consumer will be eaten by another higher level at another higher level. Then that accumulation will get transferred to the higher trophic level. So this goes on, these goes on to magnify with time, and that is why this concept is known as magnification. Okay, I hope these concepts are absolutely clear now. Now let us now talk about the types of interaction that are there. Let us talk about the interactions. Now the first interaction that I want to talk about is mutualism. So what happens in the mutualism is that both benefit. Mutual matlab consent. It means that both get benefited. Okay. Now, what is symbiosis? Symbiosis means living together. It can be positive, it can be negative, or it can be neutral. Just right now, I am telling you the basic concept. Now, in the chapter ahead, I am also going to give you the examples relating to this. Now, what is proto corporation? Now, this proto means early. Proto corporation may be both of the organism are benefited, but not benefited as they are benefited in mutualism. Okay. Now, what is commensalism? One organism gains and another one is neutral. It means no profit and no loss. Okay. It is neither plus nor it is minus. It is zero. What is predation? Predation, as you know, a lion kills a deer. So who will get benefited? Lion will get benefited. So it is positive, and deer is killed. That is why it is negative. Parasite. Now a leech feeds on a human body, it sucks the blood. So leech on a human body is there. So leech is getting benefited and human body is getting deteriorated. So it is going to lose. What is amensalism? One is negative. It means one is facing losses and the another one is neutral. Now, if I talk about the positive and negative, किसमें है तो it is in predation and it is in parasitism. Okay. Now, if I talk about both positive, so it can be in mutualism, it can be in proto cooperation, but the proto cooperation is not as positive as mutualism. And always remember this symbiosis. In the case of symbiosis, it can be positive, negative, or it can be neutral. Okay, I hope these facts are clear. Let's now move to the next thing. Now mutualism, the concept I have already explained you. Now I am just going to explain you the examples. Now ants and aphids, these are example of mutualism. Pollination is also an example of mutualism. Now in some cases it is protocorporation, that is self-fertilization. Now in pollination, plant always depended on the pollinator, no self-fertilization. DMH11, that is Dhara mustard 11, which is a genetically modified crop mustard to protect itself, protect this plant. A genetic modified version of mustard has been created. So these are the example of mutualism. Now mutualism mein primarily you need to just remember two of the examples. The first one is ants and aphids and the another one is pollination. Now, what is symbiosis? Symbiosis means living together. It can be beneficial, it can be harmful, or it can be neutral. Just right now, I've told you. Now, lichens has the symbiotic relation with algae and fungi. This is very much important. This कहीं पे आप मार्क कर लो, ये आपके एग्जाम में आ सकता है, ठीक है. Corals also have a symbiotic relation with zooxanthellae, ठीक है. This I have mentioned. Also, these corals are the indicator species. Indicator species मतलब what? It means that the atmospheric degradation or the climate change, if there is any, will be shown primarily by these things. It means that whenever there is climate change or climate deterioration, these corals are such organisms which would show, which would change their color first, which will show that the climate is not favorable or the climate is declining. Such type of indicator species is lichens also. So this you also need to remember. Okay. And another important thing that lichens have a symbiotic relation between algae and fungi. Okay. Now, protocorporation, both are plus plus. It means one is temporarily benefited, the other one is permanently benefited. The best example of this is lion and hyena. Now, for hunting purposes, sometimes these lions and hyenas, they help each other, so sometimes they cooperate. But after these lion and hyena hunt their food, lion always dominate because it is more powerful. So permanent beneficiary in the case of protocorporation is lion, and temporary benefit is hyena. It gets some of the food that is left by lion. Okay? Birds and grazing animals are also one of them. So grazing and in on the grazing animals, there are flies and insects that can damage them. But on the other hand, birds, when they sit on the grazing animals such as cow and buffalo, they do not need to fly and they can also move, which can temporarily help them. Okay? So these examples I have taken just for the sake of explaining, so you can also remember these examples for better understanding of these complex concepts. Now, parasitism, I have already told you, one gets benefited and another one loses. Now, the victim is not killed in parasitism, as I have told the example of leech and human beings. So, human being is not killed now. When the leech sucks the blood out of human beings, the leech is benefited, but the human never dies. Okay. So, the victim is not killed. यहीं पे you can just recall that there is a slight difference between parasitism and predation. Predation में the victim, he gets killed. Okay, I hope you have understood this concept now. Now, the ticks and mammals, dodder and plants, these show the signs of parasitism. Next is commensalism. Commensalism means benefit to one and the other one is neutral. So barnacles, these are the marine crustaceans that gets attached on the whales. Okay. And epiphytes and trees, these epiphytes are the plants that grow on the other plants. So the epiphyte and trees are the example of commensalism. Other to that, barnacles and whales is also an example. Now amensalism mein there is negative and there is zero. It means black walnut trees and other plant. These black walnut trees release a chemical named jaglone. Also the antibiotic producing bacteria and non producing bacteria, these are the example of amensalism. Also this amensalism is not that important, that is why we don't have to make so much waste so much time on this. Competition may there is directly negative. It is related to the niche overlap, that is Gauss law. Yeah, I've already told you. Lion and hyenas, when they fight for the food they hunt, there is competition. Trees in a forest, this is also an example of competition. There is a different concept here, allelopathy, this I have mentioned. Now in allelopathy, what happens is there is chemical interaction between plants. It can be both positive or negative. Okay, so it is released through three processes. Now the process first is leaching, that is transport in soil through water. Next is volatilization, it means air that is taken by the another plant, and the third process is decomposition. So in allelopathy, chemical interaction is there between plants through three processes: leaching, volatilization, and decomposition. So this concept is also not that much important. That is why we are not going to waste so much time on this. Let us now proceed further. Next, there is concept of neutralism. Neutralism may both of the organism do not get benefit. It means same species, same place, same resources, but no effect on each other, which also shows the ecosystem. ठीक है, many birds live with each other. So this is an example of neutralism. So what is the ecosystem collapse? Now it leads to homogenesis and simplification of ecosystem. When the whole ecosystem collapse and a newer one is formed, so there is a catastrophic decline of the carrying capacity. It may be by a natural disaster, may it be an earthquake, may it be a volcanic eruption. So there is a ecosystem collapse. So this term is, I hope, clear to all of you. Let us now see the ecological succession. Now, ecological succession is a gradual and fairly predictable change in the species composition. These are gradual and predictable. Now, with time, I told you, humans also adapt, and in that way, organism in our environment, these also adapt. So, the fair predictable change that comes in an organism, this is known as ecological succession. Now, these changes that occur over the gradual and predictable amount of time, it leads to a community that is in equilibrium with the community. Okay, ecological succession में there is finally it leads to the climax communities because इसके बाद no further changes there. ठीक है. Now, what is primary succession? What is secondary succession? Now, primary succession is a condition in which a newly cooled lava, there is bare rock and pond, there is nothing after. Example समझ लो कि if there is a volcanic eruption, there is no soil. So primary succession में what happens is soil formation is needed. ठीक है, पहले कुछ नहीं था. It means that nothing was there in the first hand. So soil formation is needed in the primary succession, but in secondary succession soil hoti hai, soil is there, so faster. So secondary succession is faster than the primary succession. Okay. Now what is primary? The wet area, this is known as hydrarch succession. So hydrarch is related to mesic conditions. Dry areas, there is xerarch succession, that is xerarch to mesic. Xerarch means lack of water. So both dry and wet, these finally lead to mesic conditions. So what are these pioneer species? Pioneer species are those which form soil. I already told you, primary succession में no soil is needed. So the species that form this soil are known as pioneer species. Okay. So lichens and mosses, there are example of pioneer species. Lichens and the has symbiotic relation with fungi and algae, whereas mosses are bryophytes. ठीक है. Now this is related to the dry ecosystem. If I talk about the wet ecosystem, pioneers are the phytoplanktons. Secondary succession में there is soil and it is faster than the primary succession, and it leads to the mesic community. It means that it is neither too dry nor too wet. Okay. Now, maximum diversity is not at climax community. Maximum diversity is just before the climax community. Now, ecological succession, if we see, is can be autogenic, allogenic, autotroph, and heterotroph. Autogenic is that when the living organism of that community bring the changes. Okay, it means in autogenic succession, the changes are at the inside level. Okay, but when the changes are bring out by the outside factors, this is known as allelogenic succession. Autotrophs may you know there are green plants, and heterotrophs may there are animals. Let us now start with the biogeochemical cycles, which is a very important topic, and many questions have been asked from this topic. So let us start. Let us now study this biogeochemical cycles. Okay, so 97% of the mass of the atmosphere is comprised of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus. Okay, Now there are two types of cycles. One is the gaseous cycle and another one is sedimentary cycle. So these sedimentary cycles are mostly related to land, whereas these gaseous cycles are in the form of the gases. Okay. Now for this gaseous cycle, the reservoir is atmosphere and ocean, and for this sedimentary cycle, the reservoir is the earth's crust. The examples of gaseous cycle are carbon, hydrogen and nitrogen. On the other hand, if I talk about the sedimentary cycle, two cycles are very much important, that is phosphorus and sulfur cycle. So obviously the gaseous cycle that takes place in the atmosphere will be faster as compared to the sedimentary cycle which takes place on the earth's surface is pretty much slower. Now next is, if I talk about the water cycle, there are some of the phenomena that you need to know about. The first one is evaporation. It is the conversion of water to the water vapor. Now sublimation, this is a process in which a solid is directly converted to vapor. You can quote an example of camphor here. Okay. Now in ice cap and ice sheets, this is solid and it directly evaporates to vapor. In the environmental term अगर हम बात करेंगे, so this can also be an example. So sublimation का एक general example is the camphor. Now what is transpiration? Now this transpiration takes place in the plants and it is the loss of water at the level of leaf in the form of water vapor. So in the leaf, when this water evaporates into water vapor, so this is known as the transpiration. So what is this condensation? When the water vapor changes to water droplets. So this condensation is responsible for the rains that take place. Around the dust particles, a hygroscopic nuclei is formed and this condenses to form the rain bearing clouds, and ultimately then it rains. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now what is surface runoff? This is falling on ground. It means that whenever there is rainfall, it falls to the surface of the ground and it takes away very much sand and the soil with it. This is known as surface runoff. Now infiltration and percolation is related to the permeability of water inside the surface of the ground. So this is known as infiltration and percolation. Now next is, where is Earth's water? So 96.5% of the Earth water is present in ocean, whereas the other saline water is 0.9%. Only fresh water is 2.5%. So to explain you in very simple terms, around 97% of the water that is there in Earth is saline water. Only 2.5% of the water that is there on the surface of Earth is fresh water. Now we will see in fresh water which constitutes the maximum share. Now if I talk about the fresh water, 68.7% of the fresh water is there in the glacier and ice caps. Groundwater में 30% fresh water होता है, and then there is surface water and rivers में 1.2% होता है. So just to sum it up, fresh water, glaciers constitute majority of the fresh water, that is 68.5% around. Then groundwater has the maximum amount of the fresh water, which is around 30%, and then surface water has 1.2%. Now if we talk further about the surface water, again ground ice and permafrost में 69% fresh water होता है. Then there is lakes, then there is soil moisture, then there is atmosphere. The most important point here to note is, in surface water you will consider that कि rivers में बहुत ज़्यादा fresh water होता होगा, but you are wrong. River contains only 0.49% of the fresh water. So surface water में largest amount of fresh water is there in permafrost and in the form of ground ice, that is 69%. Then at the second number is the lakes. Okay. Now let us talk about the carbon cycle. Now carbon is also in proteins and nucleic acid, and also carbon forms the basic unit. It is the basic unit that is present there. Human body is also formed of the carbon. So what are the sources of the carbon? that is emitted in the atmosphere. So the burning of fossil fuels such as petrol, diesel, volcanic eruption, whenever the volcano erupts, it releases harmful chemicals such as sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide and all. Now carbon is also released through the process of respiration. Okay, and decay of organic matter also adds carbon to the atmosphere. Now photosynthesis, it acts as a sink of carbon. Why? Because in the photosynthesis the plants take up carbon dioxide to give up oxygen. So oxygen is released into the environment and CO2 is absorbed. So whichever thing that absorbs CO2 is known as the sink of carbon. So photosynthesis, it acts as a sink of carbon. Now let us talk about the sinks. Photosynthesis is a sink of carbon. Other to that, ocean, 38% of the atmospheric CO2 is absorbed by the ocean, and dry ice formation at poles. So these three are the different type of carbon sinks: photosynthesis, ocean and dry ice. So what is this process of ocean acidification? When too much of carbon dioxide is absorbed by the ocean, then it leads to ocean acidification. Now there is another term, that is eutrophication. Now the major reason for this eutrophication is the release of phosphorus and CO2 in the water, but mostly it is phosphorus. Okay. Now, let us talk about the nitrogen cycle. Now, nitrogen is there in protein, DNA as well as chlorophyll. Now, the sources of the nitrogen cycle, it means that what are the sources through which the nitrogen is released. So, there is atmosphere. 28% of the atmosphere is the 28% of the atmosphere constitutes nitrogen only. Next in line is plants and animals that can't use nitrogen directly, so they convert to ammonia. Now let us talk about the nitrogen cycle. Now the first process is nitrogen fixation. Now in this process nitrogen is converted into reactive compounds. Now these reactive compounds, the conversion is done by biological processes such as bacteria and algae. Now this bacteria, that is rhizobium, it has symbiotic relation with the beans and peas. These algae, which is also known as blue-green algae, also lightning, it also naturally converts the nitrogen into reactive compounds. It converts it into nitric acid. Now if I talk about the chemical processes, the Haber-Bosch process is the one in which there is ammonia production. Next is nitrogen fixation. Let us see it in some other class, other time. First, let me explain you. If I talk about this biological aspect, both free living bacteria, that is aerobic bacteria, is Azobacter, and anaerobic is Clostridium. Now, symbiotic nitrifying bacteria also does this nitrogen fixation. These are done by the leguminous plant with the symbiotic bacteria, that is I already told you. Rhizobium has the symbiotic relation with peas and beans, and blue green algae also does this. Now then there is process of the nitrification, which converts the ammonia into nitrite. Okay, this nitrification is done by nitrosomas as nitrobacter. Okay, now this is the process you can see, but you need not go in this process very deeply, so you can just have this idea. Now this absorption of nitrate, plant makes the amino acid. Then there is process of ammonification, in which decomposition of nitrogenous waste by putrefying bacteria and fungus is there. Then there is denitrification. Now in the process of denitrification, the nitrogen is sent back to the atmosphere. Free living bacteria such as pseudomonas reduce the nitrate ions to soil into the gaseous nitrogen, which enters into the atmosphere. Now this nitrogen fixation in soil is done by Azobacter. Now rhizobium has symbiotic relation with peas and beans in root nodules, and ammonification is done by the putrefying bacteria, fungi. Next in the line is phosphorus cycle. Now I already told you it is a type of sedimentary cycle, and the main storage is the earth crust. Okay. Now eutrophication is mainly due to this. I already told you it is due to phosphorus. no atmospheric component is there, and it is a very slow process because it takes place on the land. Then there is sulfur cycle. Now this sulfur is released by weathering of rock, erosional features and decomposition of organic matter. Now if I talk about the reservoir of this sulfur, then it is soil and sediments, that is coal, oil, peat. Now in the form of sulfate, sulfide and organic sulfur, the sulfur is there in the atmosphere. Also this sulfur cycle is largely sedimentary, but it can enter atmosphere. Now this sulfur is taken by plants in the form of sulfate. Then there is this oxygen cycle. Now 21% in the atmosphere is this oxygen only. 26% in the body is made up of oxygen. Now there are two processes related to oxygen cycle. The first one is photosynthesis and the other one is respiration. In respiration, CO2 is released, and the process of photosynthesis, oxygen is released. Okay. So what is this homeostasis of ecosystem? So homeostasis is also known as equilibrium of the atmosphere. It is a biological equilibrium feedback that maintains the homeostasis. What is this Gaia hypothesis? It is related to homeostasis or the equilibrium, that is biosphere plus atmosphere plus hydrosphere along with the ecosystem. They maintains a certain amount of equilibrium in the atmosphere. So with this, let us keep this video till here only. If you like this video, do give it a like. If you want the PDF of this video, just mention it in the comment section. Do share the video if you like the content, and do tell in the comment section if you want these further parts of the environment and ecology module. Okay, thank you for watching. Keep studying.